Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Liam Neeson's Blacklight. So, I would honestly say that for those people that have kind of followed every Liam Neeson movie, because I'm sure you have at some point, I kind of feel that based on what Liam Neeson has done lately, I feel like Blacklight actually is a good film in comparison. But if you go on and just kind of took this by itself, it's like, well, is this really a great film? Is it really like? I would just say that this is just kind of a passable kind of film. It does have a decent enough story and it does have decent enough action. Uh, but I just kind of feel like really I have to put this in the realm of, hey, this is a tweed bit better than some of the other Liam Neeson stuff that's been out there. Would I feel like it's $20 worthy to just either rent or whatever this movie? Because right now on either Amazon or Vudu, VUDU, you can go and rent this for $20, and I'm like, I can't see the value in that. Um, I would probably tell people to just kind of wait till this is conveniently on some Netflix, Hulu, Vudu, something or other for possibly just a way smaller price, or really just like I would wait till it's conveniently on some app somewhere. Like this does not make sense to have a uh, price of $20 on it. It does not make sense. So, with that said, what is this story of this movie about? So, really, we go on and say that Liam Neeson in this movie is kind of a like a Denzel Washington equalizer kind of character, where we have him like have these quirks, and he has this OCD, and so we have Travis is kind of like locking this door numerous times, and going on and trying to keep his shoes and everything just nice and orderly. But like that's not all what goes on into the story. So Travis goes on and is to be the rescuer of other agents, and so Travis is having this conundrum or this crossroads with his life, and we kind of compact that with also what's actually going on in Travis's agency, where we come to find out that this agency is going on and trying to take people out that isn't exactly the right people to start gunning down or killing by any means possible. So yeah, so we get to that part of this story where it more and more just starts escalating, with not only Travis trying to win over his daughter, but then also him trying to do the right thing with his job. So yeah, like there's kind of like a lot of back and forthing kind of going on with this story. But yeah, based off of kind of like Liam Neeson's other weird stuff that he's done lately, like The Marksman and whatever that other movie that I've seen lately that he had done. Just yeah, like this is kind of a better piece, but I wouldn't give this movie too much praise. Uh, Really, it's not as good as like Nonstop or the Commuter movies that he went on and did at some point. The train and the plane movie, um, which were kind of much more recent compared to a lot of other stuff. Like it's no taken. So, because it's kind of funny because people still will quote that whole Taken thing. They'll still quote that to this day. And I just kind of find that interesting. So, with that said, yeah, it's definitely just like I would say that this is an okay film, um, or it kind of is like a like I want to say at least it's an okay. Like I could say light okay, but like cause it's just not a bad movie. Like it's just like not a good enough film. Just being honest. Uh, Especially not $20 worth on Amazon or Vudu. So where can you go on and watch this movie for free if you absolutely want to? Because I know a lot of people would. You can go on to searching, of course, in a Google search to find an app called Letter C Movies, which is a letter and then a word. You can go on and find this app, download it, and be able to watch Blacklight for absolutely free. You can go on and also find an app called Fox HD Movies. The logo will say Fox HD Movies, but the title will say something different. It'll say Play 1080p HD. But if you go on and search Fox HD Movies through a Google search, you should be able to find that app fairly easily. You can also go on to a Google Play Store to go on and find an app called TV Crush. When you search it, you'll go and instead of actually finding TV Crush, you'll find a app called HD Movies with a logo that has a crown in it. Go ahead and download that and be able to maybe not watch Blacklight, but you'll be able to kind of watch a number of other movies. Go ahead and kind of search through that, and hopefully, you'll be at the end of the day say that you could see a number of things. Maybe it's not exactly with Blacklight, but I don't know. You'll be able to find a number of things. So I apologize. I'm kind of very late in the game, late in the day. In other words, is really what I'm saying here. So let's go on into this movie. So let's just go into spoiler time because it's about that time. Let's just go into it because spoiler time. It's about that time you get to spoil this movie. So in the very beginning of this piece, we of course have a girl named Sophie who is kind of a very activist or a person who is protesting against the government, going on and saying that uh, like women aren't getting the right amount of pay and like things aren't just going well for certain XYZ people. So Sophie is gonna come in there and be the voice of the voiceless and hopefully finally get the government to see these people and just be like, yeah, we should do something about them. So Sophie is going on and trying to like rile everybody up, and they're like, yeah, she's doing it, yeah, we believe her. And so all of a sudden we have a guy named Dusty who is of course like kind of watching over Sophie. So all of a sudden we turn around and have Sophie that is kind of going through her Twitter, just kind of hearting everything and like, oh yeah, this is great that people just like me for whatever reason. And she's getting more followers on her Twitters or tweeters or whatever the goofy thing is nowadays. So maybe she was on Instagram. I don't even know. Like to me, it doesn't really matter. Uh, she's on some social media. So this girl is to go on and she is to get some kind of Uber. And so Sophie is to realize that this guy inconveniently parked to where this girl just can't go on and open up her door to get out of the car. So she slides to the other back seat of this car and goes to that door, and the Uber driver is like, well, hey, I'm sorry, like, hopefully this won't affect my rating in the future. And so Sophie just kind of walks off. All of a sudden, this girl ends up getting run over by this car. I'm like, wow, that's an interesting way to start a film. So we transition. So Travis Block is going and finding one of these agents. An agent that, of course, is to be uh, stuck. Stuck at this one trailer park because she, of course, is to have been undercover, and she had been undercover with these kind of unsavory men. And so this woman had finally started to just like her brain just couldn't take being with these people anymore. And so she finally started to get sloppy, and the guys started noticing she had bugs all over her place. So Travis is to come in to try to rescue this girl because we have a number of men that are all wielding guns, and we have these two officers, these policemen, who are kind of like surveying the scene. So we have Travis that's like, oh, okay, like I'll go and I'll help you. So Travis goes on and puts a number of propane tanks and puts a number of like road flare with a gasoline tank. He goes on and creates a number of explosions for all of these redneck guys to go on and run off to try to spray hoses all over these trailers and to just douse out these flames while Travis is going and grabbing this girl without any kind of threat whatsoever. Just like one rando guy could have just stayed around. No, so Travis gets this girl. They drive off, and so Travis' job is done. So now we go on and we have Travis that is talking to his superior at one point because he really wants to go on and be in his daughter's life a lot more. Because Travis is to go on and be at some birthday party of his granddaughter to realize, like, hey, I want to be there a lot more for my granddaughter. And we, of course, have Travis's daughter, who, of course, is to be Amanda Block, who is telling her father, it's like, well, hey, like, our granddaughter or my daughter is just kind of picking up things from you, like locking doors numerous times, and we have Travis who's just like, well, like maybe like she's inheriting things, and Amanda's just like, no, like she's like picking up what you've done or like what you're doing. So Travis is to go on and talk to his superior, and he's telling him, it's like, you know what, like I think I'm kind of done. Like I want to be there for my daughter and her granddaughter, and or my granddaughter, and I just don't think that I can, like I don't think I could be there for them anymore. And so we have Gabriel who is talking to Travis. It's like, well, hey, like if anything, go on and kind of do your next case, which involves Dusty, and we'll kind of talk about things. So Travis goes on and is to see that Dusty is to imprison himself, and so Travis goes on and he kind of gets bail for this guy, and so Travis is to go on and be like, "Hey Dusty, what's up? What's wrong?" Because Dusty is to have found out that he was supposed to be the guy to kill Sophie, and he maybe decided to not pull that trigger, and somebody else decided to do that anyways. So Dusty is just kind of fed up with working with this business because he's like, yeah, I don't feel like what we're doing is right anymore. And so while Travis is to go on and take Dusty in, all of a sudden he realizes that his granddaughter is to need to be picked up at her school, and so Travis kind of swings by, but swings by a little bit too late, where all of a sudden they forcibly call the school called Amanda, and Amanda is saying that she'll be there, and so Travis and her granddaughter is just kind of waiting things out to have Amanda come, and so Travis is seeing pictures of his granddaughter with some stranger, and she's saying like, yeah, some stranger is watching us. So eventually Amanda comes and is realizing that Travis was there. So we have it later on in the movie where Travis goes on and installs all these cameras around Amanda's house. And so we have Amanda who's like, hey, like, I didn't give you permission to put any of these cameras on. And Travis is like, well, hey, it's just for your safety. So when Travis makes his way out of the school, we have Dusty who goes on and is to get out of this car and make his way to finding some garbage truck, and he drives away with that. So we have Dusty who is to meet with this reporter called Mira Jones because he doesn't know who else to talk to, and so he's going to talk to this reporter and tell her everything, tell her all these secrets. So Dusty, of course, is trying to get to this reporter, and by the time that he actually gets to her, he ends up getting killed. He ends up getting killed by these two men, and we quickly find out that both these two men are working with Gabriel, so it's not like they're just working on their own kind of thing. Like, no, we quickly find out that Gabriel's working with these guys. So it's not like a huge mystery. So, excuse me. So after Travis was to realize that Dustin was killed by these men, we start to have Travis who's hanging out with Mira and kind of talking about his past, mentioning that uh, both Travis and Gabriel were to go on and be in the service together, and that Gabriel had brought Travis in to kind of work with him and give him this job. And so Travis is finding it very difficult to think that Gabriel is starting to just wipe people out. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So Travis is also starting to realize that there could be possibly a way that Gabriel could eventually have Travis being put up on a number of charges. Just because really Travis has technically been a off the books kind of guy that he brought in. So like there could be this like we could have it to where Travis could be seeing some jail time. So we have Travis who's realizing like things are starting to get more and more sketchy with his job, and he's starting to question things. And so we have Mira's boss, who of course is Drew. Drew goes on and he is kind of watching these soccer games, and it seems like he's betting on them. And so because Mira is not having the best time lately with kind of dealing with Dusty being shot and a number of other things, just kind of having her life possibly on the line, Drew goes on and gives her a day off and then kind of steals her story from out from under her. And then Drew is to say, it's like, well, hey, like, I wasn't trying to steal your story from out from under you, and I apologize if it did feel that way. And as Drew is saying that inside his car, all of a sudden he realizes he's being followed. And so Drew is starting to really like ramp up like how fast he's driving, and he starts to realize that he's being chased. So Drew goes on, and of course he is to make this story about Dusty, who had been killed off, who had been shot, and he had been this whistleblower. So Drew gets into a car accident, and so one of the guys is to ask Drew if he's okay, and he's like, well, I don't know. And so one of the agent men go on and kill Drew off, and then walk back to their car and drive off. So Mira is to realize that his boss is to get killed off for this after like doing this story, and a lot of these people were trying to figure out how to discredit Drew so Mira could not go after Drew's same story. So we all of a sudden go on and have it where Travis is to finally just realize, you know what, like I think I'm done. Like I think I'm done with what I'm doing. I think I'm gonna quit. So Travis goes on and is to talk to his boss and say like, hey, you know what? Like I think I'm finally done. Like I think at this point, like yeah, I'm definitely like I'm out of here. Because we also have one point where Travis is starting to get the FBI or the agents that have been going on and starting to knock off people. They're all of a sudden coming to Travis, and so Travis is kind of feeling betrayed by Gabriel. It's like, wait a minute, like you sent these guys after me? And so Travis is telling Gabriel, it's like, well, I'm definitely, like, I am done. Like, you and me, freaking done. So all of a sudden we have Travis's daughter and his granddaughter all of a sudden disappear off the face of the planet. And no matter what Travis, like, what resources he can use, what people he can call, nobody can find his daughter and his granddaughter. And so now Travis is ticked. He's like, taken. You have taken my daughter and granddaughter. I've had enough. So And we also have a lot of moments where Travis is going on with Mira and talking to her. And so we have Mira who wants to work with Travis to, like, hey, maybe he can be another whistleblower. And Travis is like, well, hey, if you go on and you start using me as a source, like there's not enough to really go and have me be a really good source for you, so you might as well try to find somebody else. So Travis goes on and has a grenade launcher, which when these two agents, who are of course uh, Wallace and I think Jordan Lockhart, we go on and have these two go in trying to find where Travis's place is, just for Travis to grenade launch their car and get out of there. And so Travis makes his way to Gabriel, and so Gabriel is telling the agents exactly where Travis is. So eventually we get to the later part of this movie where we of course have Travis, who is going out of his way to go on and find Gabriel and is to force him to kind of uh, get rid of Travis's records, and is forcing him to come clean, and also wants to know uh, where exactly his daughter and where exactly his granddaughter is. So Gabriel is to give all this up, all this information. He's going and confessing to whoever. And then afterwards, we find out that Travis's daughter and granddaughter were, of course, in some kind of weird witness protection program. And so Travis is letting, or Travis's daughter is letting Travis kind of do a lot more with uh, Travis's granddaughter. And so it seems that Travis and Amanda are going on and talking, and she's like, well, hey, like, don't be firing any firearms anytime soon with this girl. And Travis is like, well, what about explosives? And then all of a sudden the movie ends. So I know there was a lot of stuff with Mira that I completely like glazed over. But like with this character, it's just like, hey, like, we got to figure out how to get to this story. We got to figure out how to go on and put this story out. And so once finally Mira does get this story, it seems like a lot of people are assuming that she can go on and like be like award winning person for this, or like, yeah, because her life was on the freaking line. Like, she goes on and she's like answering her door with this big kitchen knife, and she realizes that it's just one of her friends, uh, Pearl, that's kind of giving her some pizza. And we have it at one point where Travis is in this like hotel, and we of course have Mira at that hotel, and all of a sudden Pearl is kind of bringing these donuts, and Mira's like, seriously, like donuts? And Pearl's like, it's the only thing that's nearby. So going into that, yeah, that's really the only thing that in my mind I have left to talk about in this one. Uh, yeah, because like the story is fairly simple in my mind, and like really most of this movie is fairly simple. It's fairly straightforward, and so and plus I'm not a heavily like dialogue person either. But so yeah, so like most of the stuff, really anything left to really cover for this film is really to just kind of cover on Mira's end. Um, So yeah. So with that said, I think I'm gonna just call it a day for this one. Let me know in the comments below if you went on and saw Blacklight. Let me know if you had any feelings about this film. Maybe you didn't like this film. Maybe you were disappointed about this film because eventually you saw this somehow or another, and maybe you're hoping like, hey, maybe this is going to be an interesting Liam Neeson film because I think a lot of people have kind of realized that Liam Neeson's films have kind of diminished quality over time because that's kind of what happens. Every once in a while, you get a really interesting Liam Neeson film like The Grey or like Nonstop or The Commuter or whichever. But those movies have started to come few and far between. So, with that said, I think I'm going to few and far between my way out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.